Joining us now via Skype is sports psychologist and expert on sports violence, Mitch Abrams. Mitch is a sports psychologist and owner of Learned Excellence for Athletes. He's also a licensed psychologist in New York and, of course, in New Jersey as well. He's also the author of Anger Management in Sport: Understanding and Controlling Violence in Athletes. Mitch, good evening, South African time. I imagine good afternoon your time. Welcome to the Oscar Trial Channel 199.
Thank you for having me.
Mitch, what is the reaction in the United States to this Oscar Pistorius trial?
Surprisingly quiet. One would figure that this is a world-class athlete that was all over the news with his successes. This has been alarmingly quiet. This is South Africa's version of the OJ trial, if you will. In the States, it's a piece of the news, but there's not nearly the fervor that one would have expected, considering the magnitude of his celebrity status and the heinousness of the crime.
Is this in stark contrast, Mitch, to what was happening when he was first arrested and when Reva first died?
Well, very often people will suspend judgment until, well, we hope that people will suspend judgment, but they kind of salivate over news. Athletes, especially of this status, are seen as celebrities, so people tend to get the ball rolling pretty quickly. I would have figured that this would have come to a crescendo with the trial, and at least over in the States, it has not been the news that one would expect. It's kind of saddening to think or hypothesize that we've become so desensitized to violence that this isn't getting the reaction that I would have expected.
Now, Mitch, I am particularly interested in your speciality. You specialize in anger management in sports stars. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I think that when you think about the pressures that athletes are under, and the fact that to achieve their goals, there's going to be frustration that happens all of the time. So getting angry isn't necessarily a problem. When you think about anger management, there's really two sides of the coin. One side is helping them to be able to regulate their emotions so that they can really get to peak performance. And the other side is for them to be able to use those same skills when they're off the field and not escalate to situations that can take on criminal proportions.
Why is that, though? Is it that they're very driven to succeed, to win? Is the win absolutely everything for them? And of course, if they don't, that triggers another reaction in them.
Well, I hate to be anticlimactic about it, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're human. And anger is one of these emotions that we don't like to talk about. When you ask people how they feel, if they're angry, their response tends to be very defensive. No one wants to say, yeah, I'm angry. In fact, if you ask someone how they're feeling when they're clearly angry, they're likely to yell at you and say, I'm not angry, and they get very defensive. So I think that there's something about the emotion that people are kind of ashamed of. Now, if you add to that an athlete that is driven and focused and under a lot of pressure, I do think that there are some athletes that are able to, that have difficulty with it. But I think that it also is important to remember how many athletes are able to modulate their emotions and not let it be an obstacle to peak performance on the field and off.
In the work that you have done, Mitch, have you seen that pressure coupled with the desire to win possibly lead to a use of performance-enhancing drugs?
Yes, however, I don't want to jump to the conclusion that violent behavior and performance-enhancing drugs go hand in hand. I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there about the one-to-one nature between steroids and performance-enhancing drugs and violence. And the fact of the matter is that steroids, testosterone, can be a contributive factor to violence, but not causative. So I don't want to jump to that conclusion, both because I don't know anything about Oscar Pistorius actually using performance-enhancing drugs. The fact of the matter is that people can engage in extreme forms of violence that has nothing to do with that.
Fair enough. I certainly wasn't linking it to Oscar Pistorius, but merely to international sports stars who may feel that added pressure to succeed. But Mitch, what advice would you give to sports stars, and particularly when it comes to anger and controlling anger issues?
I think you have to normalize it and start early. Those are probably the two most important things. You just can't get anywhere in life without things that are frustrating happen. In fact, in sports, competition is about one person beating another, or teams beating another, or you beating your personal best. So there's a lot of forces that are going against you. If you want to have a chance and not letting anger consume you, you need to normalize it as part of the process, to welcome it. The same way as you welcome the butterflies in your stomach is not a sign that you need to be terrified that you're about to fail, but more that your body's getting ready to work. So I think that that's part of it. You have to normalize it so that you can then learn how to modulate it better. And the younger you teach these skills, the better. Self-awareness is the first key. If you are not aware when you're angry, you're not going to be able to do anything to reduce it. So when I say start young, you want to talk about emotions and anger being a normal part of life and sports performance, and teach them skills to recognize when they're getting escalated, and also give them great opportunities to utilize those skills and do so before they need them. That's the biggest problem. Very often athletes have some kind of transgression and they want someone to come in with a magic wand, and you can't undo what's already done. The best thing that you can do is give people the skills that they need before they need them.
Can't undo what's already been done. Indeed. Mitch Abrams, thank you very much for joining us all the way from the United States. We thank you.